Welcome back to the Tech Ed Clubhouse Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Thomas, and today we're going to talk about curiosity and why we say students should ask more questions. We say learning should be more engaging, and we say teachers should give the students more voice. That's easy, right? The harder question is what happens after that curiosity shows up? Does it lead to better thinking, stronger judgment, or deeper learning, or does it just become another clever activity? Well, my guest today, Olivia Odileke, works directly in that tension area. Through her work with Spark Tasks, Inquiry, Professional Learning, and Campus Insights, she's exploring how teachers can create space for students to notice, question, struggle, and make meaning before we rush into the answer, which is huge in education today. So this conversation is not going to be about how to make education more fun. It's going to be about how we can help teachers work with that curiosity once they have it, and where inquiry can go wrong, and what we're actually trying to create the conditions through thoughtful teaching. Olivia, welcome to the clubhouse. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm an educator at heart. I'm an author, the founder, like you just said, of Campus Insights, but I always feel like I'm a teacher. I spent about 15 years working with schools, mostly from Title I schools to coaching instructional leaders across the country. And one thing just kept bothering me. I noticed that students were getting really good at finding answers, but not always at thinking deeply. So teachers were working incredibly hard, attending professional development, adapting new curriculums, trying so much new tech. Yet many classrooms still revolve around getting to the correct answer as quickly as possible. That realization changed the directory of my career. And today my work is focused really on helping educators create classrooms where curiosity becomes the starting point for learning, whether it's through my books, workshops, our conference, and our new Lead Spark Team platform. My goal is really to help teachers create learning experiences that students actually remember because they had to wrestle with ideas, ask questions, and make sense of the world that they are in.
You're preaching to the choir with all that. That's exactly, as we talked kind of before, I'm a recovering middle school teacher, taught STEM for 32 years. So we did inquiry and did curiosity all day long. Um, do you think that in education right now, and really kind of for the past whatever, I was in the classroom for 32 years. I believe you were in the classroom for around 15 years or so. Do you think teachers, just kind of go in and say, this is the way I was taught. This is what was modeled to me. So I'm going to stand up here in the front of the classroom and I'm going to give the kids stuff.
I think most teachers, when they come into the teaching profession, I think they're passionate. They want to make an impact on kids' lives. I think that's initially what happens. But then we get into this system of compliance, and we get into this system of everyone is focusing on the output, but no one's focusing on the input. Like what are the conditions to help students really thrive? And is it about cramming a lot of information in a person? Or is it about getting that person to to wake up, to think for themselves, to feel alive when knowledge is given to us? Because to me, I feel like learning is a gift. It's a gift that we've been given as humans, but for far too many centuries, we've spent so much time on just get it so that you can have a skill or you can get a job versus it should really be for the nourishment of you. Like we get to go out and read a book. I don't see dogs reading books. I don't see cats reading books. I mean, humans read, we grow, and this develops our confidence. We make mistakes, we learn from them. So at the end of the day, what I see teachers basically experiencing is they're drowning in so many directives and so many programs. And I actually made a chart like 2 weeks ago, and I put on it all of the time teachers have in a week and all of the things they do. So, like 40 hours a week, you're teaching almost 30 hours a week. I mean, actually in the class, doing things, engage with the kids. This does not include going to meetings, professional development, grading, reaching out to parents, ensuring you meet all the compliance for the district, for the state, working on certifications, making sure you have your continuing education credits, making sure you have your professional development plan, planning for the evaluation.
Yeah.
Mr. Tom, do you see this? I'm over capacity. And so because I'm over capacity, I just default, not because I want to, but I default to the script that you've already handed me.
And that's funny you say that, the script, it just got me thinking about canned curriculums. Like, hey, our school bought this new science curriculum. Like a buddy of mine is actually in a PD today learning about the new chemistry standards here in New York State. Um, what happens? Does that kind of beat the curiosity, or I say beat the curiosity out of, but like kind of strip it away and kind of take the art of teaching away when you have something like that?
Ooh, I love that word you said, art of teaching. That's my mojo.
Yeah.
I personally feel the curriculum is a blueprint. Like any building, you need the structure. You need to know where things are going to go. Where's this window? And to have experts come together and put that together for you is amazing. But we spend so much time looking at the blueprint and studying the blueprint, we forget that who's going to actually build the house? I need some very skilled carpenters, very skilled plumbers, electricians. I need those people to be skilled to come in here and look at that blueprint and implement it with fidelity. And we've spent too much time focusing on the blueprint and not enough time focusing on the actual art of teaching. And I'm going to go deeper with this. So if you go into a school right now, and you may ask a principal, hey, Mr. and Mr. Principal, can all of your teachers name 4 research based instructional practices they all do with fidelity in this school? People gonna look at you like you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we have research based stuff. It's in the curriculum. I said, but can they name them? And do
Yeah.
they know when to use them in the lesson? Because I believe that that is the shift we need to make. Yes, the curriculum has the script, it has the questions, they have the activities, but you have to have the art of knowing and the skill of knowing how to bring those out and what research based instructional practices you can use to get those kids to think deeply. Because my definition of effective instruction is when students think deeply every day.
Okay. So what to you is, how do I know a student's thinking deeply then? Let's implement
Oh,
that. Let's dig a
oh,
little
I
deeper.
love that. I love that. So, for example, Jamal raises his hand. He gives an answer to a math problem. Say he said the answer is 12, right? Okay. Anybody else got 12? Okay, yeah, I got 12. I got 12. Okay. Oh, it looked like everybody got 12. Let's move on. Okay? Because everybody got the right answer. But the sparking of curiosity would be, or the instructional practice to go a little deeper is, you know, tell me how you got 12. Tell me what it was 2 different ways we could have got that same number. So I need a group of students to give me this way and I need another group of students to give me that way. I need to understand your logic. And then I'm going to give you a new scenario that doesn't look like one on the worksheet or in the book, or I'm going to ask you to create a scenario,
Hmm.
create a new scenario and tell me how did you apply that same reasoning in this scenario. This is where we don't have time though,
Yep.
because
Yeah.
we have the pacing guides, which I want to sometimes just take
Oh,
a gun and I just want to shoot them up, because
absolutely.
learning is not about you. I mean, think about it. I mean, some of us can read a book, some of us can read a book in 2 days, right? But then some of us, we read the book in a month, and it takes a little while before things click. And I know we have to go places, but my thing is mastery. And if we create communities where students support each other and they see learning as a community event, not a solo event. So lining up these rows in
Oh,
our
cemetery
classroom, that
rows.
has to go. It has to go because that's not how we build community. We build confidence. And we also going to have more people feeling socially, emotionally connected, and you're going to have less bullying because we're going to take time to get to know each other and to share our experiences in the learning. So I can teach math and then I can bring in their experience into math. And that's what the Spark tasks are about. I created something called Spark Curiosity Coach, and it's based off my book Spark Curiosity, a quick guide to micro inquiry. And the whole purpose of that was to help teachers create these little moments before they start the unit so that students can start thinking about the concept, not the vocabulary, not the details. So, say for example, I'm a social studies teacher and I want to teach something about the American Revolution, right? And it might feel like it's a boring topic, but I might put in my Spark Curiosity Coach, hey, my kids, they love watching movies, especially movies like Karate Kid, David and Goliath. Maybe I'll put in some of the movies they like to watch. My Spark Curiosity coach will give me an 8 to 10 minute activity that the kids will work on in groups. And that activity would be something like this is the task: come up with a time when an underdog overcame a huge challenge and go. And now I'm learning about some of their siblings are in sports. Some
Yeah.
of them are talking about movies. Some of them are actually talking about the Bible. I'm getting to know more about them in that little 8 minute activity where they're talking with each other, and then we share out and we debate a little bit. We don't just like share out to get to an answer. And I have a couple guiding questions, and one of my guiding questions could be, um, what type of qualities do you think that underdog had to have in order to overcome that challenge? They had to believe in themselves. They had to this, they had to that. So I just took something about an underdog story, and then we're going to have a community summary. And the summary is we develop it together as a community. That is something else a lot of students don't experience, creating something impromptu together versus having it on a PowerPoint already. That means you already knew what was going to happen versus I put a blank whiteboard and I might start off with, um, an underdog needs, and then I wait. What do you think an underdog needs? Oh, okay, underdogs need courage. They need community. They need people to believe in them in order to overcome challenges. And so now I transition into the American Revolution and say, do you know who was one of the greatest underdogs in the world at one point? It was America. And now we're going to talk about how they had all of those things you just spoke about in order to become an independent country. Isn't that a different way to spark thinking? Now the kids are like looking at it and they're trying to find details that they never would have found had I just said,
Yes.
let's just start the unit on American Revolution. I mean, there's so many ways to make learning more interesting. It's just we haven't been exposed to this. This is not how I learned. And I know
Right.
for a fact if I learned like this, there are so many concepts that would have stuck to my brain longer. And that's really what the sparking of curiosity does. It makes the learning stick longer. So at the end of the semester, say you did 5 spark tasks, you could put up each of those tasks as a gallery walk, and
Hmm.
the kids could walk around, and you have rapid fire. Now they're giving you the vocabulary, the details, because they remember an entry point, because every student needs an entry point into the
Hmm.
learning. And we don't give students entry points. So that's why a lot of them go into things and they don't really understand the concepts.
Oh, I'm just thinking in my head and it's just going crazy with some ideas, you know, because that's kind of what I did as a STEM teacher, because that's kind of where I lived. But a couple questions follow up on that.
Yeah.
What you just talked about, these Spark tasks, which you could use the Spark task. Let's say you're teaching 5 sections of that social studies class a day. That's going to look different in every class.
Yeah, because you could actually put information about each class. So maybe your after lunch class are all athletes. I
Mm-hmm.
might put in, most of my students play soccer and basketball, and it's going to give you a very unique task. And we have about almost 500 teachers now using the platform. We just rolled it out in February, actually. And what I get from the feedback is this sparked my curiosity, Olivia. Like, I've been teaching this subject because especially when you've been teaching a subject for many, many years, sometimes you already have your pattern. This is how I'm gonna teach it. But remember, every year we have new students coming in front of us, and we need to become innovative, and we need to make the learning relevant because we're losing a lot of children. A lot of children don't want to go to school. They don't see themselves in the learning, and they don't feel like it's relevant. And the more we can find opportunities to make it feel relevant, the more they're going to want to stay and they're going to thrive. And it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot. It's just taking a little pause. Before I start this unit, I'm going to have a 20-minute activity because these are designed to be 20-minute activities. And that's the start. Because
Yes.
my whole thing is I wanted to create something where a person didn't feel they needed to take an 8-week course on inquiry because I have. I've also been certified in project based learning.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that the average teacher just doesn't have the cognitive load to invest that much energy. So I kept saying to myself, how can I get teachers to get kids to think a little deeply without feeling like it's something they have to do every day? And
Right.
so this task idea came to me, and the whole purpose was once you do that, and you're going to fail the first two times because it's new and you're not used to asking questions and not wanting the right answer because this is about multiple answers. I didn't have a right answer. I was just trying to get them to a concept. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
different way to think too. Because as a teacher, we're focusing on answers, assessments, and tests
Mm-hmm.
versus to get a student to really understand something, they got to have a concept connected first. So if we could just shift that one thing, we could spark more thinking. If we just shift and like start with a concept that everyone can talk about, everyone can put it in their own words, you're going to have kids retaining the information way more than a week. So that was the goal, get them to do something really short so that they could build their confidence and say, "Ooh, I tried this new thing. Like, what else can I try?" And that's when you open up passion in a teacher because they saw something different in their kids. They might have went in there thinking, "Oh, those kids can't learn or those kids won't do that activity or they won't be interested in that." And then you go in there and you ask them a question and you just realize you don't even know your kids.
Exactly. And that kind of brings me to my next question. I'm glad you finished with that statement, because why is it important as a teacher to do a very open-ended scenario like what you just said, right? You got the kids talking, you got the kids conversing, they're working in groups, even if they're working in the same groups they always work with and hang out with the same kids they always hang out with. Why is it important as a teacher to listen to these conversations?
Um, I'm going to start off first with answering this question, then I'm going to answer that question. The first question is, why is sparking student curiosity so important? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're doing
Yep.
when we make it open ended, when we offer exploration and discovery. And there's so much research that basically says when the brain is confused or something is unexpected or it creates a curiosity gap where you just showed me something I never kind of seen before. Now I want to know more. You didn't give me everything. You just exposed me to like I could take a picture of a violin and magnify it by 100, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then only see a string and ask kids, "Hey, what is this? What do you think this is?" Talk with your that maybe I'm about to introduce them into music. But here I'm just sparking their mind to be like, look at this on a microscopic level. And there's so many ways we can do that. So why is it important? Curiosity is what turns learning from something students have to do into something they want to do. I think that's the
Yes.
biggest difference. We keep trying to force kids to do stuff, but when you spark something and something just wakes up, they want to do it. And when we're
Hmm.
curious, our brains naturally start asking questions. Naturally. It starts making connections and looking for patterns. That's when learning becomes memorable. And unfortunately, many classrooms unintentionally train students to wait for directions,
Hmm.
to memorize information,
Hmm.
and to move to the next assignment. And I've learned that if we can create just a few minutes of genuine curiosity before introducing content, students become more engaged. They ask better questions and they retain what they've learned much longer. And the goal isn't simply to help students get the answer. AI can give us answers in seconds now. Our job as educators is to basically help students develop the thinking skills to ask the better questions, to evaluate the information, and to solve problems that don't have obvious solutions. And that is what the world needs right now. We need
Absolutely.
people to kind of go out and look in our communities and say, I see a problem. I'm going to go to AI, collaborate, ask them about resources in my community, ask them who should I talk to help solve this problem. And those solutions are going to look different. They're not going to be the right thing all the time because it's people and their ideas making things happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and what you're talking about too, a 5 minute exercise, a 20-minute exercise, that's not, especially with AI, it's not a heavy lift for a teacher to do on a Monday morning. I mean, and then now is a great time because we're in the middle of summer. We're recording this in the middle of July in 2026, right? With AI, it's not a heavy lift to take that lesson plan that maybe your school bought, right? The canned curriculum, put it into a chat GPT or whatever it is of choice and say, create me something like this. What can I do to introduce this to my kids, right? We're talking like I need a 5 minute
And like,
exercise.
yeah, and that's why I said they don't even have to do that. I created the Spark Curiosity Coach just for that. If they
Okay.
Google Spark Curiosity Coach, they can literally just put what your unit is about, but put something about your kids. And when you
Yes.
do that, you're going to get a very personalized task, 2 to 4 guiding questions. You don't have to ask all, they're guiding questions. They're
Mm-hmm.
not right answer questions. And then I give you a community summary that's in students vocabulary, two to three sentence max. You know it because that's where you want to lead the students to write this
Right.
statement. And I have them write it in their notebooks. And then the next day, try to say it without looking at it. Like, what is it? This is again a way to kind of get that repetition down. Because this part was actually the hardest part of my workshops was getting teachers and to just think of a concept. Like I'm working with math teachers, we're about to introduce
Oh
slope.
yeah.
And, we're so used to introducing slope with a formula.
Y equals mx plus b.
Correct. Like everybody know this, right? But what exactly is that? Like if even adults today probably won't even
Right.
be able to tell you the concept behind a slope. I want my kids to understand the concept before I introduce any numbers to them. So that once the numbers come, they will start making the connection and the learning will stick. That's basically what we're trying to do. So I can introduce slope with shoes. I can let them look at the slope of tennis shoes and the
Yeah.
slope of a heel and ask them, why do you think this is high? And they could figure it out, rise and run without saying it. They could
Yes.
figure out steepness. They could talk about, the
They start
curvature without we going on a piece of paper and showing little white dots,
and
little
they
black
start
dots
throwing that
and mix it
vocabulary
together.
in there. And they start throwing the vocabulary in there themselves, not realizing that they're throwing the vocabulary in there.
And then what happens? You figured out something before you got all of the information. That is the curiosity gap. Create the need to know. Give them just enough where they start. Oh, okay, I know a little something, something, right? And then with that little something, something, and I come in as a facilitator, not a
Hmm.
teacher. I'm facilitating. I'm
Yes, there's a
guiding
difference.
students to master something, and I'm not focused on assignments. We so quick to just give out
Yes.
assignments and give people grades, but I'm focused on mastery. And I think that's going to be the shift too in the next 10 years. We're going to kind of shift away from grades and we're going to shift more towards this competency, this
Hmm.
does this person really have mastery of what they're doing versus just, turning in a sheet of paper that, it has something. But I'm really this is my passion. This
Yeah, I
is
can
this is my
tell.
mission. And my mission is real simple. I want to make curiosity a daily habit in classrooms around the world. I don't want it to be like something that's extra. It's a habit. And I believe every student deserves teachers who inspire them to think deeply, not just perform well on a test. And I believe every teacher deserves practical tools that make great teaching easier and not more complicated. Because
Hmm.
this academia and these universities, they nice and everything, but they whole business is money.
Oh
Their
yeah.
business is not
Hmm.
simplification because if it looks simple, people don't want to pay for simple.
Right,
But
right.
simple is often more effective. And that's why I spend my time designing systems that basically help bring those research based instructional practices to
Hmm.
actually stick. And professional development shouldn't end when the workshop is over. It should become part of how teachers collaborate, reflect, and continuously improve. And that's another reason we created Lead Spark Team. It's basically like a mini operating system to help leaders in the building identify instructional challenges across a group of teachers classrooms. So say I'm on the algebra team or I'm on the science team, look at 3 or 5 classrooms, identify a challenge with students thinking, not teachers teaching. What Because cognitively effective instruction, what I told you earlier, is students thinking deeply every day. So
Hmm.
if I come in a classroom and I don't see no deep thinking, I don't hear anything, I don't see anything demonstrated in students, that is an instructional challenge.
Hmm.
And so they put it in the system. It recommends a research based practice and it self generates a mini PD for the administrator focused on that one practice. And it gives them some look fors that they can edit or adjust or delete some of them with the teachers. So now the teachers are like feeling like, hey, I have some buy in on this. And then at the end, we have like a reflection component and they fill out a little survey and they talk about how did this practice feel? Do you want to keep doing it? Do you want to, but it's designed to be done in 2 to 6 weeks. So we're doing many like PLCs focused on one instructional practice for 2 to 6 weeks so that we can improve the art of teaching. We're not talking about what's wrong in the curriculum. I didn't ask for a
No,
curriculum challenge. I said an instructional challenge that deals with how students think. That is what we need to be looking at and improving.
and one of the things that I tell teachers, and I'd love your thoughts on this too. If you want to see some good curiosity based, inquiry based teaching, go to basketball practice and watch that coach out there having 15 different kids that have all different kind of learning disabilities, get them to work together. Go to your football practice, go to your band room and look at and see what, and go to the musical practice. It doesn't have to be athletics. Go to your special area teachers who are dealing with um, all different learning abilities in the same classroom. And it might be a little chaos, right?
Yeah.
But
Oh,
there's a
learning is
lot of
messy.
learning. Oh yeah,
Learning
it
is
is.
messy. It's
But
it's
but
not a
there's a
straight line.
but there's a lot of engagement going on. There's a lot of curiosity going on in these classrooms that might not be prevalent, not be evident in a social studies classroom. And I'm not picking on the core four. I'm not picking
Oh,
on
listen,
those
don't
guys
pick on them,
because
but some of us don't know how to transfer that though
yeah,
into our subject. So we can go to basketball. I played basketball through school and college, and it doesn't mean it registers, it transfers, because that's what one of the biggest
Right.
challenges with students is, how do you get the learning to transfer to a new situation?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you really hit the top of the blooms, because you understand how to analyze and synthesize and make it in a new. And because of that challenge you just stated, that's why we're in our second year, but we're hosting something called the Spark Curiosity EDU, the experience. And it's going to take place actually in we got about 18 more days. We'll be in Austin, Texas, August the 1st, and people can register at sparkcuriosityedu.com. But the goal of that is to model a curious classroom.
Yes. And they
Like,
need to see that.
and we need models. We need to know, like, how do you create community real fast with strangers? How do you make it relevant? How do you allow them to see themselves in it? And it's more than just icebreakers. It's a very simple strategy, but until you experience, you don't know what it is.
Icebreakers and sit and get PDs are just the bane of.
That's over. We done shot those people up already. They dead.
Oh man, those are just terrible. I mean, I've heard stories, and you probably have too, where you're doing this tech-based PD, and you walk in, and the guy says, "Oh, we're not going to use computers today." But okay, but we're doing, and he's up in front with with a PowerPoint, and you're sitting in the back playing Candy Crush on your phone. Not
Oh yeah,
guilty.
all the
Been there,
time.
done
Yeah,
that.
I have been there. I always
Or
tell people that. Yes, I'm over here ordering stuff on Amazon right now.
absolutely, and I think, you know, we got to change a little bit of that and
Well,
throw some
we
things in there.
also have to spark the curiosity of our
Yeah.
teachers. And that's another reason why our PDs in our Lead Spark team platform, they all start with a task. We give the
Yes.
teachers the actual task to do, to again get them thinking before we introduce them to the practice. We want to model what we expect in the classroom. You know what I'm saying? We want to model that. And we don't
Yes.
have PDs that actually model effective classrooms. They're very rare because we are so attached to the PowerPoint. It's just
Hate them.
it's a safety net,
Hate them.
but we got to get away from the PowerPoint. We got to get with the people, and we just got to put a powerful task. Just start with a task, and it has to be open ended so that you can have a high ceiling and a low ceiling, because kids are going to come in. Some are going to already have background
Yep.
knowledge. Some kids are not going to have any. And so, but what ends up happening is, because the task is not tied to vocabulary, it's not tied to something they already know. Like, we're giving them an unfamiliar, unexpected scenario. It creates an open field where some kids who felt like they weren't smart, they come out on top. They come out, and then it shifts something in some kids. I've seen a shift, and it's a very powerful thing. I can't really, like, I try to describe it, but I can't
Hmm.
really describe it. When you open somebody up, and instead of judging them by grades, they finally realize that they are intelligent, that they have potential. And the only way to see kids real potential is, we got to take it away from the curriculum. Sometimes we got to give them scenarios that give them an opportunity to thrive.
And along those lines, you're talking about open-ended problems and seeing kids succeed in different ways. I
And it
know.
could be once a week. I mean, we could be so
Absolutely.
simple. Like, let's just try this 20 minutes once a week.
Right.
And I promise you, if you do it for 3 weeks, it'll change your life. And you
Oh,
won't be the same teacher. You will then, your brain will be curious, what else have I not been doing to spark this in kids? Because we all need a spark. Nobody just sits and goes somewhere and be like, okay, go ahead and tell me all the facts. I'm ready. That's why so many teachers are not satisfied with PD also,
oh,
because it doesn't make them think. It just, a lot of it they feel is irrelevant, especially veteran
could have been an
teachers.
email.
Yeah, exactly.
Could
Some
have been an
stuff is
email.
like, I've been teaching for 20 years. Why are they making me do this? But these one size fits all PDs, they have to stop. Unless it's just like safety, things because we have
Yeah.
to take them safety things every year, and the blood pathogen
Oh, I.
video from like 1970 that they never made a new one for. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But now, I mean, a lot of the people are putting those on online things and telling the teachers to go through it because they realize it's really a waste of time.
So one of my questions, you know, you talked about opening up some of the kids. Do you see when you implement these? I got a couple questions as part of this, and I know my experience. The academically quote academically strong kids, the kids that are the valedictorians, and I'm not picking on them.
Yeah, just go
Um,
ahead.
the
I'm
kids,
already feeling you. I'm already there.
the
Yes.
the regurgitation kids, the kids that want to know what do I need to
Oh
do to
yeah, they
earn
don't
these
like
points.
them. They don't
They
like
don't
these
like this,
tasks.
do they?
No,
But the kid
because
that's struggling, that might be the troublemaker in the back of the room,
yes,
buys in.
yes.
Why?
Because they've been waiting for the unexpected. They've been waiting on somebody to just open them up, and give them something that didn't just come from the book.
But
And also too, the opportunity is for kids to talk to each other.
yeah,
Kids don't really talk to each other enough in classrooms. I've observed at least 1,200 classrooms myself, about 10 minutes apiece, and 70 to 85% was teacher talk
oh,
in
terrible.
that time frame, and rarely, maybe 20 of the classrooms, I actually walked in and saw students doing a turn and talk, something as simple as a turn and talk. It was always teacher to student, answer the question, give me the answer, maybe one or two more people respond, and then we move to the next thing.
And yeah, 100%. Like it was always kind of important to me that if my admin walked in my classroom, which they walked in all the time, which I more than
Yeah,
loved that, I wanted them not to be able to find me
yeah.
because I'm
You
I'm in
you
the
there
middle
with
of the
the
kids
kids.
because
Yeah,
I'm in the
that's
middle of
the
the
best
kids
way.
doing
Yeah.
something, you know. Um, and when the teacher introduces these things, right? When you go in and you do a workshop and you introduce your spark inquiry, micro inquiry things, it's not going to be awesome at first, right? The teacher's going to struggle with it, right? I
Oh
mean, it's
yeah,
going to
I
take a
tell
little
them
bit.
straight up. See, I don't play with failing.
Yeah,
I tell them you're gonna fail 3 times, but don't stop. Because
yeah, it's
anything worth doing, you're gonna struggle a little bit. It's not natural. Like in my math class, when I started doing inquiry, it didn't feel natural to really
no,
discuss and talk about a concept before I jumped into the formula because I was an A math student. I just learned by models. People
yep,
got up, they did it. There was no questions. It was just like how you got it. Oh, 2 divided into 4. I got this. You just
yep.
talked about the numbers. You didn't really talk about what is really the concept behind what you're doing. So it's unfamiliar territory, but that's why I created Fearless Educator Radio. It's about 120 songs,
Mhm.
and it's all about becoming fearless. It's about trying and stepping out our comfort zone because when you step out your comfort zone, this is when you grow.
Yeah,
This is when you reach your potential. And we ask kids to be uncomfortable with things, but we don't want to be uncomfortable. So one of the things happened where I told the kids, like, I'm learning how to do something new and I'm not an expert in it and I'm gonna make some mistakes, but let's learn it together. And I don't think we have that culture of, making mistakes also because we're getting evaluated all the time. So we don't really want to make mistakes, but mistakes make me better. That was my
oh.
my slogan in math. That's my slogan in life. Mistakes make me better.
And as a math teacher, how many times did you hear, well, I couldn't do problem 6 because you didn't show us how, which was the same as problem 5, just in different
I
terms,
never
right?
got that one because I want that one right there. We about to do some reverse psychology on you. You're not gonna come to me talking about you couldn't do something. No, we had a
Right.
slogan on our walls. Excuses are monuments of nothingness. They build bridges to nowhere. And those of us
Absolutely.
who use these tools of incompetence are masters of nothingness. So they didn't come with that. They
I
got to come with
love
something
all
else.
that. Oh my
They're
God.
not coming with that. I'm sorry. We don't even make up that kind of stuff right there. No.
And when you're doing these things, like, you're introducing your Spark tasks, and kids are doing them, right? And you walk in there the first day, and you got this group of too cool for school kids over here in the corner, and they're not buying in. You just leave them
Well,
be, right? You just kind of leave them
yeah,
be, and,
but
and
well,
let
the
them
first
let
time
them.
I do a Spark task, though, I don't try to start with academia. I try to
No,
start
right.
with just social, something social. So if I'm dealing with middle school, because I also taught in
Oh,
middle school,
middle school.
I might start with a task like, what are three qualities you look for in a friend? This is a great way to get them talking about friendship and then talking about, if I was an ELA teacher, I could introduce, characters just by getting them to think about
Wow.
quality. And then too, in middle school, they're trying to find friends and they might not have a criteria for what qualities. That question just made me think like, what? I don't even know. I just be hanging out with people because they live next to me, but they could be the wrong people. And then I could even show them little movie clips. Look at this friend. Look what this friend just did. Look at his friend, and the friend getting him in trouble. Is this a friend? Any of you guys got
Oh,
friends like this? Now they're thinking. Now they gonna go home and talk to mama and daddy about something. Mama, today I think I don't need to be friends with Jonas no more because Jonas got some bad habits.
right. And then you can tie that little simple little activity you did, where one, you're finding out more
Yes,
about that kid, right? So that's the important part behind anything, right?
that's the
Is we're
most
finding
important
about
part.
I'm finding more about Olivia, so that I know how to teach her when the stuff gets hard.
Exactly, and I'm not gonna be able to find this on a survey, an interest survey. It
No, they
has to
don't care.
be brought out, and kids need to feel like they're in a community. And when we go to trainings, we usually like to talk about things we've experienced in our classroom, in our
Mhm.
life, and we bring that into the experience, and then that makes us be actively engaged. You know, it's not forced engagement.
And now kind of taking this kind of back, I like to tie some things up a little bit. So you talked about the American Revolution earlier on,
Yes.
right? So you could have started your American Revolution with your friendship thing, like what's a good friend, and was Britain a good friend to the United States? And now we're
Yes.
or a character study in The
Hey, boo,
Outsiders
all
or
day
Romeo
long.
and
You see how this
Juliet or
curious stuff works? You
right.
just got to know how to pull in human emotion. And I put my spark task to like movie trailers. A
Love it.
movie trailer doesn't tell you the whole movie. It gives you enough to make you curious to want to see the
Mhm.
movie. So we have to give kids a reason to want to experience this unit. We need a trailer. We need a
And
task.
right. And that's what advertising is, right? That's what every
That's what advertising
because
is.
because and I'm going to ask you this question because this guy I ties in. Why does a kid come to school?
I actually asked this seventh grade boy that question because he would skip a class like every day and come to my
Mhm.
class. And I didn't want him to, he could get in trouble, get a referral. I just left him alone. But I asked him, I said, baby, why you come to class? Why you come to school? I come for the girls. I come for the girls.
Yeah. And, and
So
and
that's why he was coming. Some
but
people just come because what they gonna do? They need friends. A lot of people just come because they want to see people. They're not really
yes,
coming because they want to learn and or some people come because they need food to eat.
or a
They
hug.
need food. Yeah, they need hug. Or they need to see that there's an
Uh-huh.
adult around. So that question right there, that's a whole book right there.
That
You
is,
want to write that book, Dan? Why the kids come to school?
I
We
learned
we
that one.
interviewed 20,000 kids, and this is what they told us why they come to
I
school.
learned that one when sitting on the pool deck, talking to my daughter's swim coach one day. He goes, because if you've ever done swim practice, it stinks. It's not fun. Your face is in the water. You're staring at the line at
Yeah,
the bottom of the pool for 2, 3 hours a day. It's not very fun. And,
yeah,
and he goes, why does your kids come to swim practice? And I'm like, I don't know. He goes, it's because that's where their friends are. Kids don't come to school to watch us work.
no.
As much as teachers, we want
And
to
they
go,
don't
yeah,
come to pass the standard standardized tests either. They
you
don't
know,
come because of that either.
they
No.
right,
They really come
and
to have a good time, to laugh,
so do we.
and and to experience, have a nice experience. Like
You know,
let's learn and be a joyful experience. And that is really what I really want for teachers and students. I want
right.
when you learn something, it feels good, and you don't feel pressure, because we have enough pressure in life. There's enough things coming at us, bills,
Oh,
family members, politics, you know, the,
right.
the pollution in the environment. Why can't, when I go in my classroom, create an oasis for me and my kids? And you can, but you have to imagine it first.
Yes.
And we're not imagining enough. We keep focusing on what we see, but you got to put in your mind what could happen differently with your kids if
Mhm.
you got them to thinking first and you stop doing all the thinking, because our teachers
Yes.
are doing too much of the hard thinking.
That's why we get
What are
burnt
the
out.
kids doing? Yeah, stop giving them worksheets with step one, two, three. No, that doesn't require thinking. Follow these steps. No, you figure it out. We're going to do some stuff. I want you to put the steps together for me.
And then
Show
the
me
answer
how we do this.
and then the answer you get is something you would never think of. In a million
Eh,
years, you get the answer and you're like, that's amazing. I would have never 32 years in the STEM classroom, I saw, built bridges. Every year we did something different. Every
Yeah,
year
and then
some
at
kid did something that was just utterly amazing. And it was the kid you wouldn't think of that would do that.
then you're gonna feel less burnt out, and you're gonna feel
Absolutely.
like you don't need the antidepressant medicine, because I
Oh,
think at least 50% of teachers are on antidepressants because it can be feels very lonely and isolated, because you we keep setting these expectations that are over our capacity.
mm-hmm.
The only reason I stayed a teacher is because I just kept a different notebook in my brain,
Uh-huh.
Dan. And that notebook was, I'm gonna do what I can do for today. So even if my leadership had 5 things I needed to submit by 5 o'clock, at a certain point, I reached my capacity. I'm like, I get that to them by the end of the week. I'm not stressing myself.
Right.
And my teacher friends would be like, Olivia, how do you do this? I would go get massages like twice a month. How do you have money for that? I said, how do you have money not to? The work we do helping kids, it can be frustrated. You need a lot of patience and you need to take care of yourself. And this is the best way to take care of ourselves, is to take care of our minds, our mental health. And my two ways for my mental health was massages and spas.
There you go.
And the other way was the music, listening to music that would calm me, or, help me refocus, help get my energy where it needs to be. Because at the end of the day, I'm the adult in the room. They are children. I cannot get on their level. So a kid is acting up, I'm not going to scream and holler at them. That's on their level. And teachers got to stop that screaming and hollering stuff too. Because there are at least 50% of the kids there who are always going to do what you ask them to do, and they don't get enough credit for doing the right thing. And I've talked to those kids and they hate it when they have teachers who yell at the whole class when it's only maybe five, people
Oh,
acting wild in the classroom,
yeah. Same way
you
with
know.
us teachers, when somebody screws up and you get the staff-wide
Yeah.
email about somebody
Yeah,
propping a door
exactly.
open or something. Yeah, we hate
Yeah,
that.
like talk to that person. Don't talk, and I would just call those people out. Like when I'm like, John and Jacob,
Yep.
I need you to stay behind. Then I put my finger on them. I'm gonna talk to
Yeah.
you. That stuff you did today, that ain't gonna work no more. But we make a scene, and some kids just want a scene because part of it is they don't feel like they can learn anyway.
They're
So their
frustrated.
goal is to cause behavior issues
Mm-hmm.
because they are frustrated. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another reason why these tasks are so powerful, because it allows that student who thinks they can't learn to be a part of the learning.
And then the other kids in the classroom also go, "Oh, Jacob, Jacob thought about that in a different way. I would have never expected that out of him or Sally or whomever." Right. And you can hear all kinds of different ways. Oh, I just so much there, Olivia, just so much. Um, one more
It's been a
question for you.
pleasure. Go ahead. One more question.
Um, and this might be a good one to end on. What's one legitimate criticism you've heard about this? We've talked about there's a ton of great stuff, but what do you hear? What is the biggest criticism from your workshops, from conferences, from teachers, um, that.
Well, I don't know necessarily from my workshops. I don't really get complaints from that.
I wouldn't think
Especially,
so. I think your
yeah,
workshops would be freaking amazing.
what happens before though is this idea of sparking curiosity sounds like a pipe dream.
Yeah.
And it is a pipe dream. It's just like someone saying bring creativity to the classroom. If I don't give you a very specific strategy to do it, and that is why I developed the Spark task to give teachers a very specific thing to do in order to do it. And it's more than just getting kids to generate questions.
Hmm.
So once you show them a very specific way to do something, now the energy is different. So, and again, I'm not asking you to do this every day because that's hard. If you want someone to try something, you got to make it be like, let's just try it once a week first, see how it goes, then before you know it, they're trying it once a week, they're seeing the energy change, and then they want to try it some more. So that's my philosophy. And I've done a lot of research looking at teacher preparation programs, and we spend so much on pedagogy, on
Hmm.
curriculum, and
Hmm.
almost 60% of these prep programs are just content on the teaching of the content. But we don't have courses on the art of teaching. What is the art of teaching? We got some books out there, but and then sparking the curiosity in the teaching. Those are things that are missing. And because they were missing, this is why I started doing this work, because I'm tired of kids feeling like they can't learn or school is not for them when learning is for everybody. It's for all of us.
Oh, I couldn't think of a better place to end our episode than on that statement. That is amazing. That should go on the wall somewhere. Um, Olivia, some of my listeners are going to want to reach out to you. Where can we find you?
Well, they can go to our sparkcuriosilyedu.com. It has a link to our Fearless Educator Radio. It has our conference. And I am very active on LinkedIn. So if they have my name, Olivia Odileke, I do a 10-minute spark every Wednesday where I just spend 10 minutes talking about ways to spark curiosity in the classroom, ways to spark curiosity in leadership. And I do 10 minutes just to show them how you don't need a lot of time to do
Yeah.
these things. Yeah.
Outstanding. I'll put all those links in the show notes so people can click on them. Olivia, it was a pleasure talking to you today. I love everything you're doing. Keep up the good work. And I think we'll circle back on this later on as we head back to school this fall.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you again for the pleasure. And just remember, the future belongs to the curious.
Absolutely. Thank you again. It was what a wonderful episode.